of ratepayer dollars just to get and keep a GP in their town. So this means locals are paying once through their rates and again when they have to go and visit a doctor. The federal member for Durack is Liberal MP Melissa Price, and she joins me on 6PR Today. Hello, Melissa.
Hello, Ollie. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. You raised this in the federal parliament recently, and I know you've taken out an opinion piece in the Countryman newspaper. Just how bad is it for some people in your electorate to have to fork out through their rates to be able to get a GP to live in the town?
Yeah, it's a really terrible situation. It's not just here in regional WA. A lot of my colleagues on the East Coast regional Liberals, I actually did a survey amongst them last week, and they said they've got the same issues. But the information I'm referring to was a survey that was done in 2023 by Rural Health West. They partnered with Welga. And they surveyed the extent of the support being provided across WA by local councils to attract and retain a doctor in town. The survey found that 69 WA local governments were contributing $6.8 million net annually through financial and in-kind assistance to support primary healthcare services. But here's the alarming bit. It's alarming to start with, but this is the really alarming bit. The results showed that more than 75% of this funding supported the local doctor, so the GP, of which 92% came from communities with fewer than 5,000 residents. So these are smaller shires, small rate base. They're already under financial pressure, and now, over a period of time, they're now paying to keep the doctor in town. And when you have a look at just the extent of what they're paying for, it really paints a very bleak picture for regional Western Australia. So, of course, it's such an inequitable situation. But now I understand this is actually across the country. So, we've got governments who are talking a good game, talking about how great it is. You only need your card. You only need your Medicare card to go to the doctors. But people in regional Western Australia, they know something else. But they know that the system is not being supported by them. And the shires, who are already under enormous pressure, are the ones that, they're doing the right thing by their communities. And good for them. I pat them on the back because they're doing it because they're trying to keep their doctors in town. But it's just not sustainable. And, something's got to give. And for a lot of communities, the councils are now thinking, well, we just can't afford to keep doing it because, as you say, you pay once through your rate, then you pay a second time when you actually go to the doctors, if you can get a doctor's appointment.
And it shouldn't be up to those rural ratepayers to fill the gap. This is a responsibility of government, Melissa.
Well, 100%. And the recommendations from the survey from Welga were hoping that the state government will come to the party and they'd establish what they called a local government primary healthcare funding, which was like an initial amount of $5 million. But in addition to that, they also talked about the WA Local Government Grants Commission to review the appropriateness and effectiveness of what's called the Medical Facilities Cost Adjuster. This is within the financial assistance grants. The financial assistance grants are federal grants that they give directly to local governments. And that's effectively what I've written to the Minister, Mark Butler, about last week, to say, let's have a look at that. Is that actually appropriate anymore? Is it relevant? Do we need to increase it or find some other way to support these doctors directly?
As you mentioned before, that was the slogan leading into the federal election campaign from the Prime Minister. He likes to spruik at any opportunity that you can just use your Medicare card and you'll be able to see a doctor. But that should be, if it is going to become a reality, and there's a bit of doubt about that anyway, that all the GP clinics will take it up, whether you're visiting a doctor here in the metropolitan area or anywhere in the regions for that matter, Melissa.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, the latest Clean Bill data, and they come out with data often, they say that the people in Durack, their costs are rising, access is declining, and as at July 25, so only a couple of last month, only 42 clinics in WA were bulk billing non-concessional patients. And even after the much hype, which Labor's talking about come November, there'll be other changes to take effect, that number won't even hit 90. So you're paying through your rates, you're paying to see the doctor, but the opportunity to bulk bill, that is dwindling. So it is a really terrible situation for the health of regional Western Australia.
When you think about your electorate, you'd have to have by landmass the largest electorate in the nation, wouldn't you, Melissa?
Absolutely, 1.4 million square kilometres and over 50 shire councils. Not the most councils, by the way, but it is definitely the most landmass. And there are, as you know, in the wheat belt, and in fact, this report really demonstrated just the worst situation is actually in the wheat belt, because the further north you go, the WA Health Department kick in, and, good for them, in the Pilbara and the Kimberley, there's a lot more services up there. But out in the wheat belt in the Midwest, apparently we don't have the same health needs in the Midwest.
But why not? Why isn't it being addressed? Do you think this is politically motivated? Because you're a Liberal and obviously in the state parliament there's a lot of Nats, that live around there.
Well, I couldn't possibly comment on that. You'd like to think that everyone's health in Western Australia is important, so I'll leave that to the WA Health Minister to respond to. But this is clearly been demonstrated that our local councils, the smallest of our local councils, are the ones that are footing the bill. And on any measure, that's just not good enough. So anyway, state government, federal government, pull your socks up and look after our regional West Australians.
Absolutely. And as you say, the resources you've got there from a local council only goes so far. If they're having to now fund the capability of having a GP in the town, that is going to become unsustainable. So hopefully you get a result, but with all due respect, I'm probably not holding my breath.
I'm not holding my breath either. But look, if anyone's listening and they've got their own personal story, I'm gathering stories, a bit more ammunition, I'd love to hear from you.
Good on you, Melissa. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ollie.
Federal member there for Durack, that's Liberal MP Melissa Price. She's got a massive electorate. It hits 1.5 million square kilometres, but particularly there in the wheat belts where they have been struggling to get GPs. And it is something we have covered from time to time, but the local councils are having to fork out ratepayer funds just to keep a GP able to offer those services. I think it was Corrading, wasn't it? They're offering up about $1 million to try and attract a new GP, a $400,000 salary, housing, staff and accommodation. Now, it wasn't alone. They're calling these places GP deserts, and it might be somewhere that you have lived. It might be somewhere that you have visited. How far are you having to now visit or go to see a GP? And residents in GP deserts, they say, receive 40% less services per person than what is the national average.